Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is wealth. What is wealth? We get to explore this and the different aspects of wealth so that we can really experience the abundance that we have in our lives. But before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to settle in and get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy throughout your body. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, any negativity, toxicity. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, electrifying and energizing all your molecules, all your electrons, all your cells, lighting you up and illuminating and energizing. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining stress, fatigue, tension, negativity. And now let's just gently press our palms together and really softly, lightly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the sensation that delicious tingling, tickling feeling of the texture of your palms beneath your fingertips, and bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome. So it's another new week, and we're talking about wealth today. And so many of us, when we think about wealth, we think about it in terms of dollars and cents. And I play cryptocurrencies. I invest in cryptocurrencies, and the market has been going crazy. And I know some people who have become recent millionaires as a result. And so it made me think about wealth. Plus, I've also been really interested to have a deeper understanding of monetary systems and how we can create a paradigm going forward that's more equitable and nourishing in a social context. So the understanding of wealth and what wealth means is an important part of that for all of us. And in a book that I'm reading called Creating Wealth, which is about local currencies, it talks about multiple aspects of wealth. Of course, there's the monetary piece. However, you could have all the money in the world, and if you don't have the social interaction and connection and a support system, then you're not going to be really benefiting from that wealth, right? And there's also the state of peace of mind of the experience of safety and presence that is also part of an experience of wealth. And it brought me to thinking about whether there is a certain dollar amount. Good afternoon, Pat. Wonderful to have you here. It's morning where I am. I'm in Pennsylvania, and I'm guessing you might be in Europe somewhere. It's wonderful to have you here with us. We're talking about wealth. So is there a certain dollar amount that you attribute to the definition of wealth? Like how much money makes you wealthy? Yeah, you know, or how much money qualifies as material wealth? Good morning, Rosalind. Monday Musings with Mira and Maggie. I'm going to have to get you as a copywriter, Rosalind. Thank you. So for those of you who haven't met her before, this is Maggie, and she steals the show pretty routinely. So wealth, what is wealth? Is $1 million wealthy? If you had $1 million, does that make you wealthy? If you had $100,000, does that make you wealthy? If you had $5 million or $10 million, like how much money qualifies as wealth? Is it a fixed amount? Is it an ongoing income? Oh, I love this, Rosalind. Exactly. What a great point. Are we talking about wealth if you're living in California, right? Because if you're living in California, then and actually in some places in Florida, you know, what is wealth? So maybe a starter home is at least $500,000 or more. So is wealth ongoing income? Is wealth a fixed number? Hi, Irma, welcome, welcome. So I think it's really, really interesting to be thinking about what qualifies as wealthy. Like, I'll be wealthy when this happens. And I wonder if it's possible to presence ourselves to the wealth that we have wherever we are at this moment in time in our lives, that the monetary piece is only part of it. Hello, Robert, welcome. So good to have you back with us. So when we have our needs met, hello, Hope. Good afternoon. Great to have you here. When we have our needs met, that is a definition of wealth that we could choose to adopt when we have our needs met. And then we might say, okay, well, what are my needs? You know, is wealth beyond fulfilling my needs and moving into fulfilling my desires? So some people define wealth as being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And that to have enough money to facilitate all your desires. And I wonder if we can also reframe that to a place where we can consider wealth the abundance that we have. You know, if we can recognize our wealth of connection with others, our wealth of safety, our wealth of having our fundamental needs met. Most of us, thankfully, are blessed with enough to eat and food, water, shelter. And that in itself is wealth. And it's all relative, is what, hello, Susan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you here. When we look at wealth, it can become a relative conversation. So relative to you, perhaps I have less money and I might say, well, then you're more wealthy than I am. Perhaps in relation to me, you have richer relationships. So you might say that you are wealthier than I. There's social capital, there's emotional capital, there's natural capital in terms of what our environment provides to us. Some of us may be in a concrete jungle, and therefore we have a paucity of access to nature. And so where, you know, how are we qualifying and quantifying wealth? And I invite you to consider all the blessings that we have. What we tend to do in thinking about this whole idea of wealth is think about what we don't have and what we're lacking rather than what we do have. And Susan says, blessed. Indeed, indeed. What I'm really getting at here is finding gratitude and appreciation for our blessings, counting our blessings, so to speak. In other words, to let our blessings count as wealth. And so Irma says, I have some awareness of that kind of wealth of knowing I have my needs met. The accessing deep gratitude is where I get stuck. Well, this is an interesting point, Irma, because accessing deep gratitude, I think it's a matter of talking ourselves into understanding this deep appreciation for like the basic things like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. So for me, the idea of breathing actually is something that I can connect to being truly grateful for, because I have a history of asthma, which means that I have had real difficulties breathing in my life, like getting oxygen. So to be able to breathe, to really fill my lungs, is a gift that I can feel grateful for when I allow myself to presence myself to it. So if I can enjoy the taste and the texture and the sensation and the nourishment of the food that I have, then I can find appreciation, which I can magnify to be an experience of gratitude. So for you, Irma, you're like me in a lot of ways, that in that the way that you are able to visualize things is by speaking them. So speaking them to yourself, describing them. And I think it's the same thing with accessing gratitude, is feeling open-hearted and appreciative and receiving. So if I can talk myself into that state. I can talk about how blessed I am to have all the wonderful blessings of life, and that can move into the experience of the gratitude. And Christina says, so thankfully my needs are met. I have a home with heat, food, and water. So the thing is that when we get past taking these things for granted, like assuming, of course I have a home and food and water. One of the ways that we can appreciate our blessings is to imagine what it would be without them. And so Christina says, and I was about to invest thousands into something that would have been a dead end. Instead, recognize some painful red flags before it happened. I am grateful. Wow, Christina, that's awesome that you recognized it before you took that plunge. I have invested and lost money in many things in the past, and the opportunity to recognize a dead end before you leap is a wonderful gift. So congratulations for that. And Rosalind said, we have wealth when we have enough for ourselves and can share abundance with others. And actually, Rosalind, that brings to mind a survey, like a study that was done around generosity. And the interesting thing was that it was people who had less that tended to be more generous. Cultures where there was less abundance where people shared more readily, communities where there was less financial wealth, where people supported one another. So the social capital in these communities was much richer, much more abundant than in wealthy communities where people tended to isolate themselves more as they accumulated greater wealth. So that's pretty interesting, I think. So Rosalind says, I'd love to live on a farm using permaculture practices and produce enough food for my family and have plenty to share with friends. I'm not a farmer nor grow food enough for my neighborhood, but I am abundant with love. That's beautiful, Rosalind. Being abundant with love is the foundation for all of it, I think. And when you talk about being on a farm, I love the vision of living in a community of people that all have their independent properties, but also where there is a lot of community activity, where there's maybe a collective farm that people can be part of, or where people share and trade bounty from their gardens, or where there's a greater community connection and interest. And so a friend of mine, Dirk Christoph, is pioneering something called the Paradise Syndicate, and it is a vision of a positive impact culture, where rather than minimizing our negative impact on the world, we generate a positive impact through our activities. And part of this is an intentional community or collective of individuals with their properties and a collective interest in maybe a farm or gardens, or it's under development. If you're interested, go check out the Paradise Syndicate on Facebook, and you can get involved. It's a beautiful vision, and it goes into positive impact business and positive impact lifestyle and agriculture, architecture, etc. So Irma says, I guess that appreciation I get to train myself by repetition till I get to real gratitude and enjoyment of my blessings. I think that it is a practice, Irma, and I think it's something that we can deepen as we just, like, if we presence ourselves, for instance, to a meal or even a snack. Let's say I'm having an orange, and I can presence myself to appreciation for that orange by enjoying it sensually through my senses. So I can presence myself to the texture of it. I can smell it. I can peel it and observe the different colors and textures. And when I peel it, I can smell it. I can taste it. And enjoy all of the different sensual experiences of this thing, which then creates this deeper experience and can move into really easily from that presence, can really move into appreciating and enjoying all of those aspects. So that is, I prefer appreciation to gratitude. Gratitude somehow feels subservient, whereas appreciation feels like a give and take somehow, or like an exchange. And the exchange is presencing myself somehow to the wonder and abundance and appreciation. There's, for me, I don't know if you feel that subtle difference between gratitude and appreciation, but for me, appreciation is an engagement, a direct engagement. Gratitude is somehow being separate from the thing I'm grateful for, in my mind. And that could be just totally a semantic argument or conversation. So Irma says, I will start a gratitude mantra. And maybe, that I think that's a great thing to do, finding gratitude or appreciation, whatever works best for you, for the simplest and easiest of things. And in that way, we can magnify our experience of wealth. In other words, our experience of abundance. Hello, Elaine. Great to have you here. Welcome, welcome. So I'm reminded of a time when I had really no money. At one point, I actually had $9 in the bank, and that was it. And I didn't have other assets either. So that was, really, really down to the wire. Hello and good morning, Tammy. Welcome. So good to have you joining us. So at that time, I started really looking at what wealth is, or what abundance is, and how to be able to be in an experience of abundance regardless of what the amount is in my bank account. Elaine says, been there as well. And I imagine that other folks have also been there with us. And one of the things that I became aware of, is that there's so many things, in that we can want and desire and have to have, need to have, want to have, dream of having. And going through the fluctuations of finance that I have in my life, I came to allow the whole world to be mine. And so when I saw beautiful things in a gallery or a store or a museum or whatever, I could see these beautiful things and I could have them while the store took care of them for me, so that they were there for me to be experiencing and enjoying and appreciating. I didn't have to have them in my particular environment. And that opened up worlds for me, in that I didn't have to be concentrating on, well, I can't afford that, because I didn't need to afford it. It was already there for me in the world for me to experience and enjoy. I didn't have to have it under my possession on my own personal shelf. And that's a way, like I talk about expanding to include. So I expanded to include the world as part of my experience. And that shifted this sense of lack to a profound and growing abundance. So Christina says, I have had very little myself. It has made me a giver and not bitter. That's beautiful, Christina. So in not having had much, then there's very likely less of an attachment to the things, all the things. So with less of an attachment to the things, there's more space potentially to be giving and generous. And I hope that if there are any Indigenous peoples listening to me, that you forgive me my ignorance if I misstate this, but I believe that in a number of Native American traditions, the idea is when I have a thing, it is for me to give to the next person and to share with the next person, and that there is more bounty in sharing or in giving than there is in receiving. And I have a vague recollection of something called a potlatch ceremony. If anybody listening knows about that, I have this recollection that it's a means of, or it's an exchange sort of circle where gifts are shared, and the more treasured the gift, the more treasured the possession, the more important it is, or the more gratitude I have for the ability to give it. The more I treasure something, the more meaningful it is that I give that gift. So please forgive me if I've misrepresented that. Now I've got to go look it up and learn a bit more about it. But it's a whole different relationship with things. And so Tammy says, me too. You really find out what matters when you don't have lots of stuff or lots of money to be spending on lots of stuff. For sure, for sure. And Irma says, wow, that's beautiful. Robert says, I have found out that the more you return to simplicity, you realize that you don't need many of the material things in life. That helps in being more giving too. Beautifully stated, Robert, that as we become more connected, when we return to simplicity, as we simplify our lives and our surroundings, I think that this whole movement toward decluttering and moving toward more minimalistic ideas of things, that we get a shifting of values. We get to recognize that all the stuff is just stuff, and it means a whole lot less. And as it means a whole lot less, we become less attached. As we become less attached, we experience a greater sense of freedom. And therefore, there's a flow of things. So things come in and things go out. The giving and the receiving and the giving. That's where wealth resides. I think the ultimate in wealth, rather than in accumulation necessarily. Now, certainly with more money, there's more capacity to donate to different or support different organizations, but we can do we can support things in a variety of different ways. And in this age of social media and digital identity, we have a much greater capacity to influence in the world than in the past. And we're all, I'm sure, familiar with the statement of money is power. The thing is that money is not the only vehicle to power. And it is possible in this day and age to collectively and even individually wield certain social power that can initiate change. And look at oh my gosh, I just forgot her name. I'm so embarrassed. Oh, help me out here. Who is the remarkable Swedish young person who her name keeps coming just almost fully to consciousness, who has started a global movement of kids protesting around climate change. Greta Thunberg, that's her name. And look at the influence that this one person is wielding in the world to wake people up to our situation and to influence and create change. So Robert says, I experienced this with crystals. When I had my crystals collection of over 100 different specimens in it, I kept acquiring crystals, but I knew that most of them were supposed to go to someone else, but through me. That's beautiful, Robert. Wow, that's really, really beautiful. So yeah, so I don't know if there's a lag. I'm now seeing you guys saying Greta Thunberg and Greta, but how amazing is it that this one young person has managed to exert such a profound global influence in such a short time by having the conviction that she has, that has now traveled the world. Hopefully it's going to result in positive behavior change globally as well. So Rosalind says, so if wealth is synonymous with appreciation, then what is the value we get from being appreciated? Ooh, I love it. That's it. So I don't know if I would make wealth synonymous with appreciation. I think the experience of wealth might be synonymous with appreciation. So then what's the value we get from being appreciated? Well, again, it's the experience of being appreciated. There is no monetary value to assign to appreciation. So then what is valuable? Time? Question. So I love this stream of thought, Rosalind, because what is valuable? What is valuable? I guess we get to say what's valuable. Certainly, the traditional thought is time and money, right? So time, and I've even heard, and I'm sure you've heard, time is money. Time is not money. Time is time. Money is money. You know, time is not money. That doesn't mean it's not valuable. Time is valuable, I guess, based on what you do with it. But life in and of itself, life is valuable. At least that's what I choose to believe, that life is valuable in and of itself. And so Elaine says, very powerful experience to open me up to what is truly valuable and trust. I always have what I need. All is love, and all is loved and cared for as we remember there is no lack. Return to the peace within and know the truth, as together we move into living and thriving in the now. That's beautiful. Yes. So what's this? I want to go back to the beginning of what you're saying, Elaine, and that is that what is truly valuable, as we open up to what is truly valuable, we can, as we open up into that appreciation, we also can open into a trust that we always have what we need, and that there's no lack. So as we presence ourselves to appreciation, we feel greater gratitude. Well, we feel greater bounty and a recognition of the abundance and the blessings that we have. So this is, it's, in a way, we're talking about a mental exercise, but it deepens beyond the mental exercise into a visceral experience and emotional experience of appreciation, that is about how we think of wealth. And then that abundance mindset, that experience of the richness and abundance that we have, brings us to a place where we're vibrating and at that frequency and attracting more of that kind of experience. And so attracting more abundance. Elaine says, Robert says, time is relative. Indeed it is, as is wealth, right? We were just saying time and wealth are relative, for sure. Elaine says, living a simplistic life has taught me what is truly valuable to me in a deep sense of gratitude for being at peace, learning to live in harmony with all, and all are blessed from the inside out. I love that you said all are blessed from the inside out, because that's how we experience our blessings, is by the way, the perspective that we take on those blessings and on our experience. It all goes from the inside out. Our whole experience of life is from the inside out, and we get to determine whether we are in abundance and bounty, or if we are experiencing poverty of spirit, of finance, etc. And particularly if we are blessed to have enough to eat and shelter and home, and to remember that that is not a given, that not everybody has those blessings. And so Robert says, if time equals money, and for each second we have $1, then we have $86,400 to spend daily. I say spend it wisely. I'm just going to challenge the time equals money thing, because to me, time equals life. I don't believe that life equals money. I've mentioned this before, and that is in another book that I'm reading called Slow Money. They talk about money theism as a religion, and they also mention money as a religion in the book Creating Wealth. And we have kind of elevated money to a religion, at least in this country, where everything equates to money. Life equates to money, time equates to money, happiness equates to money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I would prefer to be, well, I just, that's not my religion, money theism. And I'm guessing that for most of you who are here today, it's not your religion either. I just think it's important for us to notice the places that we take certain assumptions for granted, like these sayings, time equals money, for instance. So Rosalind says, Maggie looks calm. She's just hanging out, not so much of a busy bee this morning. Yeah, she went and ate a bunch of my night blooming cereus plant. I wonder if that has a calming effect on her. I'm not really sure. Hi, Maggie. Yeah, you're mellow today, right? Pretty mellow. So So yeah, Robert, these underlying assumptions, I mean, I love the calculation, but at the same time, I think we get to challenge some of our ideas that go kind of pass by unexamined, like money makes the world go round. And no, the world goes round and round, whether there's money or not. Money equals power, etc. All kinds of things like that. So we get to be more cognizant about how we perceive wealth, how we revere wealth. So the thing about wealth is there's a tendency to believe that wealthier people somehow are smarter, perhaps, or their opinion matters more, or yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain arrogance that can go along with wealth that, again, is unexamined. So as so many of us, like with this cryptocurrency space, there's an opportunity for wealth that I haven't recognized anywhere else, really. And so if I make a lucky investment, does that make me smarter because I make money? Like, there are a lot of assumptions we get to examine around the deference that we give to wealth and to people who have achieved wealth. So this is one of her favorite toys. Anyway, so Robert says, true, I wish we lived in a world with no money. Well, interestingly, I think from this book, Creating Wealth, that I'm reading, I'm learning that local economies can help to balance wealth. And the thing that we get to do with money is to return it to a means of exchange rather than an end in and of itself. And so we get to create different dynamics around money. I don't know what those are yet. And I don't expect that I'll be the one to solve the problem globally. But there are lots of folks working on different approaches to economics and different paradigms that may allow us to create an economy that is more aligned with a sustainable future, that it is more, that has a greater capacity to generate or support a sustainable future. So Elaine says, I've experienced homeless living on the streets and I have experienced homeless and living on the streets, and I live a life where materially all I needed and wanted on the outside, very beautiful lessons to go within and find the true value of life's treasures. So Elaine, are you saying that you actually did live on the streets? That's really powerful. And as a result of that, I have experienced homeless living on the streets, and I live, wow, and I live a life where materially all I needed and wanted on the outside, very beautiful lessons to go within and find the true value of life's treasures. Super, super powerful, Elaine. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You certainly have an experiential perspective on what's important and blessings. And wow, I have imagined living homeless on the street. I don't know that I was able in my imaginings to to find the blessings that you have. Wow, at 13 years old, I lived on the street as a kid. With your family or alone, Elaine? That's so intense. What a lesson, and amazing that you took that experience and used it to allow yourself to discover the blessings of life. I'll bet you did. Elaine says, I learned so much. I'll bet you did. And it sounds like you took alone. So with no family, oh my gosh, Elaine, wow. 13 years old to be a child on the streets, it's pretty remarkable that you're here to talk about it. And it sounds like you gained so much wisdom from that. I'm so glad that you survived it. And I'm sure that you share the richness of your heart from that place. Like, I just can't even imagine. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, there's so much to be grateful for. So much to be grateful for. And whatever our circumstances, right, Elaine? It sounds like you learned, you gained some profound perspective. And Irma says to Elaine, thank you for sharing it. Now I get more your deep heart. Absolutely. Elaine, it comes from such deep perspective. You're so appreciated here. I'm just deeply moved. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you for joining me for another wonderful conversation. I so appreciate your input and your vulnerability and your authenticity and your wisdom. And it's really a deep privilege for me to have the blessing of engaging with you. And on that note, we get to recognize our profound wealth of community and spirit. And Robert says, living on the streets gives you a different perspective on life and much wisdom. I call that the street school. I speak from experience. Well, you too, Robert. Wow. Yes. Wise souls, maybe we can have a deeper conversation about this, because I think that you guys bringing your experiences present for everybody would have such a powerful, would be such a powerful education for all of us. So I'm just humbled. I thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your heart so openly. Anyway, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Please check out the community on Enlightened World Network and enjoy the wonderful programming. And until next time, let's all recognize and appreciate our blessings.